Stop hunting. Start finding. Choose the AT&T Real Yellow Pages with complete ads and up-to-date local listings to find just what you need.
Travel to Spain on Orlando Avenue. The finest restaurant featuring cuisine from Spain is open for business, lunch, and pleasure. El Bodegón, our very own 4-star restaurant, is open for business, lunch, and dinner. This is a true gem when it comes to real Spanish cuisine, featuring dishes like paella. El Bodegón also has a great wine selection. Enjoy a 4-star cuisine from Spain today for lunch or dinner at El Bodegón.
My universe is everything I imagine. I want to be a graphic designer. How can I get there? The Academy. It fits my busy lifestyle, and I can learn firsthand from instructors who've been there and know what it takes. Hey, my destiny is a career doing what I love, my way. My choice, my school. The International Academy of Design and Technology.
You imagine? We can get you there. Call 1-800-932-2900. 1-800-932-2900.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every Tuesday night on Bright House Cable at 9:30 p.m. We welcome our audience and all our new listeners. And I'm here with Nicole Alvarez, who's my co-host. How are you, Nicole?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We got a little. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do a little blurb, news from Washington, just one sentence,
Okay.
you know, or 2 sentences every week to let people know what they don't know what's going on in Washington. You know that the Parks Department
Yes.
is in debt by $9 billion.
In the red?
In the red, $9 billion. And guess what? They're putting through a bill to give the Parks Department $50 million, which will be used for a park in the Virgin Islands that's privately owned.
Really?
Yeah, the park is actually, most of the park is privately owned, and even though the Parks Department is $9 billion in the red, they're giving them another $50 million for whatever they're going to do, because they haven't said what they're going to do to this park. They're giving $50 million to this park in the Virgin Islands. The Congress of the United States, the Democrats have appropriated the $50 million. It's going through Congress this week.
Really?
Yep. Other news here locally, just so that everybody knows, 1 out of every 143 homes are in foreclosure in the state of Florida. 1 out of 5 are underwater. Now that means, when they're underwater, it means that the person who owns the house owes more in the house than the house is actually worth.
Wow.
So what does that mean? That means that those foreclosures are going to skyrocket as people bail out, because they don't want to pay off this exorbitant amount of money over the next 30 years.
Right.
So they'll take the hit for 7 years, maybe on a bankruptcy or something like that, and they'll walk away from it. Good news, right?
That's good news for somebody who wants to buy a cheap house.
Yep, and we're also going to give you a little quote from a famous person every week. This week we're going to start off, this is going to be every week, we're going to start off with a quote from Martin Luther King. Okay, you want to read it?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Okay.
History will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period was not the strident clamor of bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people.
And now he said that back in the 60s.
And it's still
And it's still true today, even just as valid today as it was back then. Okay, let's introduce our guest. We have our guest today. His name is Ray Caron, and Ray is a practicing pediatrician for over 20 years. He's a doctor, he has a law degree, and he's on the faculty of the University of Florida and also another college, Nova Southeast. And he's extremely politically active. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Okay,
Nice to be here.
I have you on for specific reasons.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when I found out that you were politically active as well.
Yes, sir.
And we have yet to have a medical doctor on to talk about the health care bill.
Yes.
And the implications of the health care bill. So how do you feel about the health care bill that's being proposed and it's being pushed through the House of Representatives?
You're speaking of the combined 2,000-page Senate version and
The big
2,000
one, yeah,
page,
yeah.
the 4,000 pages.
What's in there that's outrageous to you as a doctor?
The whole thing.
Yeah.
It's what makes the United States a great nation, and it's not exclusive of medicine, is competition. Complacency never makes anything that has any merit whatsoever. Socialized medicine, socialism in Europe, it's all, the medical community is a very complacent community. Our community in this country, we live by, of course there is profit, and nonprofit institutions. Some hospitals are for-profit, some are not for-profit. Of course, the healthcare industry is for-profit. The pharmaceutical industry is for-profit. Great medications come out of the pharmaceutical industry every year. Our healthcare industry, I believe, is outstanding. Most Americans, almost 80% are happy with their healthcare. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no need for improvement of the system. I'm sure we could improve it. Pre-existing conditions and other things where we could form packs of people to get better pricing for small businesses. I mean, and tort reform. Lots of the typical things are out there. They can be improved, and they should be improved. There should be.
Well, the tort reform issue was always very controversial.
Right.
And having insurance companies that have particular geographic control,
right,
instead of being able for people to go across state borders.
Right, exactly.
So are you for going across state borders on insurance?
You mean for grouping together for
Yeah.
pricing
For
reasons?
pricing.
Sure.
For pricing, yeah.
Yeah, I have no problems with that. You know, the restraints on healthcare today, a lot of those types of things need to be loosened up. And then we need to also tighten in other areas, such as the malpractice areas. The malpractice is basically, it's me having a law degree, and I've been on both sides of the fence now. I live on the medical side, but I've seen the legal side, going through the legal education. I understand both sides. And I don't think it's fair for somebody to have a bad doctor do something wrong and not be compensated for it. That's not right either. But the medical community lives under a noose. Every doctor that walks into a room has got a noose hanging around his neck. Somebody's just waiting to pull on it. Okay? And doctors do order many tests without merit. CT scans, MRIs, this, that, and the other, because you don't want to be accused of under-treating. Of course, and that's what usually is the case when you're sued. You know, you're sued because somebody accuses you of doing something and there was a bad outcome. Now, see, the sad situation, I believe, and I've always thought this even before I went to law school, is that bad outcomes are not always caused by doctors. I mean, people do get sick and people do die, but it's not necessarily the physician that created the situation. To a lot of the plaintiff lawyers, it is. The doctor's guilty.
It's an opportunity for lawyers.
Of course it is.
Whether it's valid or not.
And they'll string out your insurance company.
A lawyer will go for the money.
Oh, big time. And that's how they make their living. I mean, you go to a surgeon, unfortunately, he feels as though the way you fix somebody is to cut them most of the time, because that's how they approach problems. You go to a lawyer, they sue. That's how they settle issues. And in the case of physicians, the medical community themselves need, number one, they need to rein in bad doctors better. I can see that, and they are trying to do that. I sat on a committee that I just finished 6 years of from President Bush, and it was the Foreign Medical Accreditation Committee. It was under the Department of Education in Washington. So I got exposure to how the United States appropriates its money to Americans that want to study in foreign medical schools. And that was what the committee that I was on controlled. And seeing the intricacies of how some of the systems work within the government, I was able to understand funding issues, licensing issues of physicians, how state medical boards and medical examiners control their own entities. One of the gentlemen on the committee with me was the chairman of the Federation of State Medical Examiners, so he was in charge of all the 50 states. So I was exposed to a lot of that type of thing, and I saw some of those, and they are trying to do that. They're trying to control physicians who get out of line and need to be controlled, or delicensed if they're bad physicians. That goes on within the insurance companies. Insurance companies protect the patients from bad physicians within their own systems. Those doctors will be filtered out and they'll be kicked off plans. I'll just pick a plan, United Healthcare, Staywell, or one of those. They guard the patients. They protect the patients, because if a physician does something wrong, the physician will have to answer for it. And if there's not a good answer, then they'll be taken off the plan.
One of the biggest complaints is that healthcare is constantly going up in cost on the insurance side, whether it be United. I have United, by the way.
Right.
And my insurance has gone up for the past 3 years consistently.
Right.
In my particular case, it's warranted that because I've sucked up a lot of money into the system in the last 3 years. But it goes up proportionately with everybody. It's not only me because I used a lot of services, but everybody, even if they didn't, their cost goes up.
Right.
Whose fault is that, or is that just the system that we're in, and is that part of what Obama wants to change? And will it work?
Well, let me give you an example of what I go through every day, and I would imagine a lot of physicians go through the same thing I go through. We're under the gun for testing, unwarranted testing.
So you're saying that you test even though you feel,
right.
Doctors test even though they feel it's not really necessary,
right.
but
Sure.
just to cover
sure.
your back.
Big time.
Okay.
Big time. And I'm just being honest with it.
Yeah.
Because if you're pulled into the noose now of the medical malpractice world, nobody protects you. You're on your own.
You're on your own.
You're on your own. You're hanging from that tree. Yeah. And it's not a fun thing. So you have to protect yourself because your insurance company is going to settle it to their advantage. Maybe you have a valid case. I review cases for the state of Florida. I've been doing it for many years. I review cases for insurance companies, and I'm an expert witness for the state of Florida. And a lot of times the doctor lost the case in the court system, the civil court system, but he comes in front of us and we see he did nothing wrong, or she did nothing wrong whatsoever, and they're exonerated. But they were hung in this criminal, in the civil system.
Court. And
yeah.
that could be just because they didn't do an extra test that may
Right.
have been warranted.
It's a show.
So there is a suspicion.
Danny, it's a show in front of the jury.
Right.
You can convince that jury that, oh my God, had you done that test, this child would be alive today. Yeah. And then the jury takes one deep breath, and it's over.
Yeah.
You're done.
Let me ask you something that's a little bit out of your expertise, but you're still a doctor. The Department of Health came out and said women no longer need mammograms at the age of 40. They can do it now at the age of 50.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's a big mistake. I have a mother in my practice in Kissimmee that I haven't seen in a month or two, and I'm worried about her. She has the same situation, cancer. She's on chemotherapy. She's sick. She's very sick, and I'm pulling for her, praying for her, and
Is she within that 40 to 50?
she sure is. She was below 40.
Wow.
Okay, so now when you talk about cost effectiveness in medicine, there are certain things that we can do and we can't do to be cost effective. Number one, rein in just waste, rein in fraud, rein in waste, rein in unnecessary procedures of physicians, and the 1 or 2 million, 3, whatever, let's say, I don't know how many millions of dollars a year we would spend to prevent female cancer. I don't want to put a price tag on cost effectiveness when it comes to cancer of a male or a woman, man or a woman, because you're dealing with an individual's life. I mean, the most precious thing to us that we have is our life.
Well, that was one of the things that I noted on CNN when I was watching the interview from the person at the Department of Health. Basically, it came out to percentages.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the percentages of women who get breast cancer are 50 plus.
Gotcha.
There is a smaller percentage
Exactly.
in the 40 to 50. So what they're saying is
But
that
see,
it's not worth the money. Let's throw these lives away.
No. See, to me, that's horrific.
10,000 or 15,000 lives,
Right.
in the course of all the money we're spending, that's not
Right.
worth it. We can expend those people
See.
because they're calculating based upon money.
See, that's horrific in my opinion.
It really is.
It's
It really
horrific.
is.
If that was my child, my wife, of course I'm 58, so I'm not going to have a 35-year-old wife, but if it's going to be a child of mine that would go through that, or a nephew, niece, or
Right.
something like that, that's horrific. That a price tag was put on their head and they passed away because of money. There's a lot. What I just told you, the different areas, Dan, that we can improve on, and we can save billions of dollars by improving on other areas. Going after other
So you're saying
things.
this whole thing with government involvement is totally, as a physician, you don't want anything to do with it.
It's horrible.
It's going to establish a lower quality of healthcare, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No.
But is that true?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I'm going to give you a quick example. I went to Europe, to Germany, because I have a friend of mine who has the disease, and we went to a renowned specialist in Germany to get an opinion. We went into the German's office, the doctor's. He spoke English, and his assistant did too. While I was there, the young lady physician who was working there asked me if I happened to have any brothers who were her age that might be interested in having a German wife, because she wanted to immigrate to the United States as a doctor. Okay, and after we saw the German physician and we went through the testing and so forth, the German doctor looked at us and he patted me on the back and he said, "God bless the United States." And I said, "Well, thank you, sir." And I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Because if I depended on the socialized medicine system in Germany to help me with my research, there would be no research." He said, "I am funded by foundations from the United philanthropy institutions in the United States that send me money every year, and that's how I do my research. We don't do it from socialized medicine." When you have a government entity telling you what and what you cannot do every second of the day, I got to pick up a phone, dial a 1-800 number and ask for a CAT scan for a child that I think needs one. With an insurance company, I can argue with them. I can get a human being on the phone and kind of argue my case, and they'll go along with me. An 18-year-old clerk at a 1-800 number at a Ogden, Utah-based government system that is going to look in a book and tell me in a manual and tell me that, well, the CT scan is not done because she didn't pass out more than 24 hours at a time. Do you see what kind of a system that's going to be?
Well, I know that in the bill I read that they put that there was a manual.
Oh, it's horrible.
And the manual, it says medical practitioners, and then in other words, the interpretation of the manual is based upon medical practitioners.
Exactly.
And medical practitioners, they made a list of who's a medical practitioner,
Exactly.
which actually did include ambulance drivers and attendants
Right.
to make decisions having to do with life or death.
There's a couple of untold things that I wanted to mention today. One of them's going to be, I've been a practicing pediatrician for 20 years. I've developed relationships with insurance companies. They trust me. I have faith in them. When I need something for a child, I call them, I get it. With a government plan, you lose those relationships. We have none, zero. That priority, clout, as I guess you want to call it, goes to zero. And with a government-run system, we're going to lose basically anything that we have done over the years where we have sat on committees, tried to improve medicine, all these types of things that we've done, we are doing and have done in the past, they'll disappear. And it's going to be a government entity somewhere telling you how to manage your patients. Who's going to get chemotherapy? And you're going to go back to this cost-effective baloney. That cancer you have is kind of a bad one, so we're not going to spend $100,000 on you because, you're probably going to die anyway. It's going to happen. And that's what's in Europe. I don't know if you saw just recently
Why did Alan Grayson stand up before Congress and say that what Republicans want is want you dead?
A show. That young.
Are you saying there's no basis for that, really, as far as?
Oh, that's show. That's all show. He seems to like the camera and the.
Well, he's gotten a lot of play out of it. You know that.
Well, the gentleman needs to sit back. All I have ever heard from anybody is that you're from Orlando. You're from that guy that's in Congress that has the problem with speaking out before he thinks, and if I'm going to say it politically correct.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Alan's been on the show, and
that's fine.
He'll probably be back.
That's fine. But the comments that he's made on TV about the Secretary Bernanke's secretary and Vice President Cheney and so forth. I mean, I may not be a fan of Vice President Biden, but I respect the man. I respect the office. I'm not going to make degrading comments about anybody in public. And I think those kinds of things just show that your lack of leadership. And that's another argument on another day, but signing bills without even reading them and all this kind of stuff, that's what's got us where we're at, to the point of a 4,000-page bill that nobody's read, nobody knows what's in it. What, 100 and something new government agencies in this thing telling everybody, doctors, what to do and what not to do. It's going to be a disaster.
Let me take you in another direction.
Okay.
You're a pediatrician.
Yes.
Pro-life.
Yes.
Tell me some of your experiences having to do with abortion. How do you feel about it? What's the implication on your side as an individual and as a doctor?
Well, as an individual, I'm Roman Catholic, born and raised Catholic all my life, and I believe from my own personal faith that it's wrong. As a physician, I handle babies. Mm-hmm. That's who I take care of. I look at each child I see as God's child. We're the caretakers, and these are God's babies. I cannot distinguish between looking at a baby in the hospital. I happen to go to Celebration Hospital, and looking at a baby that was just now born, but an hour ago it's not a human, but now it is just because it passed through the birthing canal. See, to me, as a pediatrician and as a father and as a human being, I think that's ridiculous.
So what is, when you just said that there's an hour difference.
Right.
So there are abortions happening an hour before they're born?
Well, there's late-term abortions, you know.
Okay.
They're horrific, Dan. It's the slaughter of a human being. See, people don't know the graphic horror
Tell me.
of an abortion.
Tell me about.
Well, it depends on how they do it. They can inject saline solutions and poison the infant. You know, there've been where they cut the skull out and take the brains out while the infant is kicking inside of the woman. And I mean, these things are horrific in my opinion. You know, you're going back to World War II torture of human beings type of thing. To me, it's very appalling as a pediatrician that's done. And I see and I hear about it through people in the community who've had children that have had the procedures that are done. And I do believe that there's long-term consequences to that. I mean, anything we do in life, there's always a consequence.
It makes spiritual. Or
yeah, spiritually, spiritually, you know. And I think that as the years would go by, you regret that kind of thing. But
do you believe that an abortion can take place within a certain amount of time, or do you believe that the infant is an infant from the point of conception?
Well, I believe in conception. Okay, you know, I go back to just the strict teachings of the Catholic faith, and I believe that God created all of us, and that once we're become a human being, as far as the cells unite together, God has stamped us a human being. We're there. Now, what we do beyond that, as a physician, I mean, I can imagine certain instances where there may have to be an early abortion for one reason or the other, of the mother's dying, or some of those types of situations. I can, as a physician, I understand those kinds of things. But what I have a problem with is not having a child because you want to buy a new car this year and you don't want to budget the kid in. You'd rather budget the new Cadillac in, or the Mercedes in, and those types of things. To me, when you lose.
Okay. You just talked about a Mercedes. What about in the case of the poor? You got a woman. I'm going to use Hispanic because I'm Hispanic. I'm allowed to do that. It's not politically incorrect for me to say Hispanic because I'm Puerto Rican. Sure. So you have a lady, and she has 4 kids now, okay? And she's in poverty level. Her husband took off. She doesn't know where he is. He's gone. And she's now on public assistance, and she's on the way with another kid.
It's called the Jesus, Mary, and Joseph Society. They will take care of her.
Okay.
It's a part of the. I'm not sure if it's totally Catholic or not, but I do know of it because of the Catholic Church. I know in our church they'll take care of her. They'll find a way to take care of her, and she would be given formula. She'll be given help. She'll be given financial help if she needs to put the child up for adoption after it's born.
What you're saying basically is a person who is in that kind of need. Let's face it, Raymond.
I know.
There's a lot of people in that need.
I know that. I know.
Okay, there's a lot of people like
that. I know that.
But if they seek the help is there for them.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, I do believe that.
Okay.
You could go to Catholic social service, and I'm saying the Catholic part because I know of these.
You have that experience.
Because I have that experience because it's in my own church within my system. But you know, there's Baptist systems, there's Methodist systems, there's Jewish systems, and I do believe that if you go to the faith-based systems, they will help you. There's plenty of help out there, and there's plenty of women that will help you too. And they'll get you into groups, they'll help you to get through this pregnancy, and if the baby does need to be put up for adoption, that's a better option in my opinion.
Okay, we only have 2.5 minutes left, and I want a quick answer on this.
Sure thing.
Do you believe that the Obama administration, I'm assuming everybody out there already knows that you're conservative.
Yes.
Based upon the conversations we've had. You didn't say you were, but let's call it what it is based upon the conversation.
Okay.
Do you believe quickly that the Obama administration will survive the first term based upon the backlash that he's picking up? Because the reality is all the things he came in, he thought he was going to steamroll everything through. Right. And he has gotten a grassroots swell up against him. Right. And even though he's had the majority in the houses, he hasn't been very successful because a lot of even Democrats are now opposing him because they're afraid of
Sure.
not getting reelected.
Sure.
Do you think he's going to make through the first term?
Well, he'll make it through his first term because he was elected to a 4-year.
No, but I mean,
but
go
you
to
know,
a second.
I don't see it personally. I think Obama made one underestimation of the American people. We do not like living poorly. We enjoy a good life in this country. There's capitalism, there's competition, and we enjoy doing well. The poor in the United States are the wealthy of some other parts of the world. You know, we have to be, you know, I think if we all sit back and look at our own personal lives and just appreciate what we've been given.
Well, he himself is an example. He came from the poor, became president of the United
Exactly,
States.
exactly.
So he set an example for the Hispanic community,
Sure.
for the black community,
Sure.
for all the communities,
No.
that someone who is not in favor
Exactly.
can score and
Sure.
win as long as you're
And
smart
I'm very
and
happy.
do your work.
And I'm very happy every little minority child that will look up to Obama sees that example. I'm very happy for that. I just hope that he meets their expectations by doing.
I think he already has by getting there.
By getting there, he's done that.
Yeah,
But I do want him to do good things. I've not seen that happen in the first year. And this leaning towards socialism and socialized medicine and everything else seems to touch on socialism. I think he underestimated the American people. We're not a socialist people. We like capitalism.
Well, Ray, time is up. It's a pleasure having you here. We'll
My
see
pleasure.
you again. Danny Ramos, Hispanic Speak Out TV. We will see you next week. For once, you didn't speak so much.
I know.
Next week, I know you're going to make it up for me. We'll see you next week.
My universe is everything I imagine. I want to be a graphic designer. How can I get there? The Academy. It fits my busy lifestyle, and I can learn firsthand from instructors who've been there and know what it takes. Hey, my destiny is a career doing what I love, my way. My choice, my school. The International Academy of Design and Technology.
You imagine we can get you there. Call 1-800-932-2900. 1-800-932-2900.
Stop hunting. Start finding. Choose the AT&T Real Yellow Pages with complete ads and up-to-date local listings to find just what you need.
It's 4 o'clock. You want to dial in?
Yeah, you know, these calls would go a lot better if we had an office.
This is our office.
This is your daughter's dorm room, Bob.
Listen, we have internet, telephone,
Dorm room.
lounge. It's all free.
You could just do business at FedEx office. They've got Wi-Fi, workstations. A lot of them are open 24/7. It'll still save us an overhead.
Hey, baby. Here, give me sugar. Get a room.
Technically, this is her room.
Hello, we're on. We understand. You want less overhead. FedEx office.